this state is a receiver type of energy. It's like you have to learn how to just be. You have to learn how to be present. You have to learn how to accept, and you have to learn how to receive.
Welcome to another episode of the Soul Collective. I am so excited to bring you Alea Lovely. Alea is the host of the top-rated spirituality podcast on iTunes called Spiritual Shit, and it is an amazing show. She is an energy healer, and she helps people to really discover and move past their blocks using energy, healing, mediumship, channeling, writing, and mentorship. So, Alea, welcome to the Soul Collective.
Thank you so much. What a beautiful intro. I'm happy to be here.
Yeah. One of the things that I absolutely love about you, and you talk about this really all the time on your podcast, is just like how honest and real you are.
Thank you.
Yeah, I really believe that vulnerability is a superpower. And, we were just talking a little bit before we started recording about, change and transformation and really embracing the season that you're in. And, I know that you just recently became a mother. Congratulations.
Thank you. Thank you. If you guys want to know what was happening before our interview started, I was telling her that this is my first day by myself with my newborn. And so if she starts to cry, just be gentle with me as I become this new person and learning how to do motherhood and work at the same time.
Yeah. So what are the biggest adjustments been for you?
Oh, it's really funny. So pregnancy in and of itself was such a huge change for me because to be an independent person and to be someone who's very much in my masculine all the time, and by masculine I mean I'm a doer. Like I'm gonna go do this and I'm gonna go do that and I'm gonna go fly off here. To not have that type of autonomy anymore was a huge adjustment. Being like, okay, you can't eat this and you can't do this thing anymore and you can't fly on this plane during this time. And, coronavirus. And there were so many things that I had to do to shift and change to be able to be the vessel or portal for this particular soul to come through. And so there was a lot of sacrifice. There was a lot of, I had gestational diabetes. So I was having to do the pricks every 4 hours or 2 hours or so. It really gave me some empathy for people who have diabetes. Like, oh my gosh, there was so much diet and menu that needed to be involved. I had pre-eclampsia scares, post-eclampsia, pre-eclampsia, whatever. It's not called post-eclampsia, sorry. But like just concerns with blood pressure, all the things that were happening in my body. Suddenly it was like, I have to be, this particular vessel for this soul to come through. So my body is not my own anymore. I'm having to share it. And being someone who's super independent, that was a sacrifice, a little bit selfish when it comes to my body. And not having that anymore felt really difficult. Like, not being able to tie your shoes and you can't sleep on your stomach anymore. There was just so many things that was like, I'm just really annoyed with that. And then to have the birth that I had, which I'm sure we'll get into later, was super traumatic and scary. And, I thought I was going to die on the table. It was really, really bad. And then to have her come through and now to have this new acceptance of this new stage of like, okay, like I can't just go back to work. And I don't have the time with my partner that I really wish and miss that I had. Like there's barely any cuddles anymore, like she sleeps in between us right now. And, just like knowing that like I am here to be her mother and she's chosen me as her mother, and that being a shift in and of itself. Like a lot of people think of parenthood and, at least even the way that I've thought about it, previously is like, oh, this is going to be this wonderful thing. And you're excited and, oh, what a cute little mini me. That's cool. But there's so many sacrifices that are involved. And, it's like you're still waiting for the rewards. It's not an even trade. And so learning what that looks like to be knowing that you're putting in this work. Like a lot of people are going to be like, what the fuck is she talking about? She has a baby, you know? And it's like, no, you really get into the situation and you start to transform yourself and say, wow, I didn't realize how selfish I was. I didn't realize how independent I was. I didn't realize how much I needed, time with my partner. I didn't realize how much sleep I needed,
Yeah.
and seeing all of those things kind of shift and have to be in this place of acceptance for that season, like having to be in that place of like, okay, this is what we're doing now.
Yeah.
And like not be in a place of like, okay, well, once she gets older, then she'll sleep through the night. Or okay, when this happens, then I'll be better or happy or fill in the blank for whatever it is. So that I would say has been the largest adjustment to answer that very long-windedly.
I feel like, oh my gosh, yeah, it's so amazing. I feel like we can be so grateful and so excited for a new season of our lives, and yet still, like, it comes with change and adjustment, you know?
Yeah.
And I mean, motherhood, wow, like stepping into that is huge. And so I love how just like real and honest you are about the journey because I think about it for
Thank
myself. And, I'm not a mother, but of course, like I think about, maybe one day if I step into that role ever as a mother, like what a big adjustment it would be and
you.
how,
Mhm.
and I love how you bring up, the energy of doing versus receiving. What
Mhm.
was that like for you to like really change that, especially with all the things in your business and your podcast and being able to kind of balance that?
It's been extremely hard. On my show a lot, I talk about the balance between masculine and feminine energies, and it's clear. I hope to clarify here that that's not male or female. That's just the way that they label them. But the doer energy and the receiver energy, and to be in this state is a receiver type of energy. It's like you have to learn how to just be. You have to learn how to be present. You have to learn how to accept, and you have to learn how to receive. Like during this time, people, baby shower, giving us tons of gifts and meal trains where they're bringing over food. And I've had a really hard time learning how to receive from other people,
Mm.
not feeling like I'm having to give all of them myself, but, waiting for other people to give to me. I've never done that. So it feels really uncomfortable to be in a place where people are really giving a lot during this time. And it's like, well, at least during this time, I have to accept it because it's like, well, I'm not cooking tonight. So yes, we'll take your food. But it's this weird space of learning, one, the people in your life, like the type of people you have in your life. When you allow yourself to be in a feminine energetic position, you allow people to show up for you. And I think that that's something that I've had a hard time with for most of my life because I've always been the one to show up,
Yeah.
but not really knowing if the people around me had the capacity to show up for me. And I wonder about that because like I got a chance to see the vastness of the type of people that are in my life. And my partner got to see it. And he was like, this is incredible. I've never seen people show up like this before.
Wow. How
Um,
beautiful.
it was a really beautiful experience, and I would not get a chance to see that if I didn't wasn't forced to be quite honest, universe, to be in this space of receiving. In addition to that, there's times where I'm up in the middle of the night with her, and I'm sitting there, and I'm like, "Don't get on your phone, just be here right now." Look at her little beady eyes and see like her how her face looks like mine and how she's learning about like the world every time her eyes are open. Just be here with her. And it's been an interesting exercise because like to be in that feminine energetic space and saying I'm accepting of what's happening right now. I want to participate in what's happening right now and letting myself receive this experience,
Yeah.
letting myself accept this experience and not try to be somewhere else. And what's been really interesting is I've gotten kind of some weird spiritual things have happened.
Yeah. I was so
I see
curious to
these
ask you.
really like big purple like bursts of light around her a lot,
Mm.
which I've seen those before in the past. I don't know, like my show, but like I have this connection to the other side, if you will. And I've seen those with her, And then I've also seen where she starts to fall asleep, but she's kind of in between. And then it as if she's interacting with someone. And it's the only time I see her smile, because they're not like old enough to smile yet. If they smile, it's like gas or something. Where I'll see her make these big smiles, and I'm like, who is she interacting with?
Yeah.
It's a little creepy, to be honest. And to be present with that. So to be in this feminine energetic time period where it's like, okay, I'm not working, like I'll start working in a few weeks. I even cut my maternity leave short because I was like, okay, like I've done this for me long enough. But to have this time where it's like, I don't have to do anything, I need to just be here right now, I need to accept this experience, has been interesting to also connect back to spirit. Through my pregnancy, I've been such a or just like, I mean, you know how you go through those time periods where you don't feel as connected,
Mhm.
and you're just like, there's something going on, and whatever. And I had a spiritual teacher talk to me and say, your body has been, like utilizing all of its resources, so like you have been grounded into the human experience as much as possible, so don't worry that you don't feel as connected, your body's still doing what it needs to do. But I felt like that was a shift and change, like,
Yeah.
where's my, like, I want to hear from my guides, I want to hear from these people, I want to have these cool things happening again, and not to feel connected to that. I felt like I was disconnected and I wasn't a part of myself anymore.
That's
And
so
that
interesting.
has an identity shift that occurs with that when you
Ye
shift energies like that.
Yeah. And did you feel her as a spirit coming through really strongly from, like, the very beginning? And also, do you feel like you shared lifetimes with her before?
100%. um how much time do we have? I have a story for you.
Yes, please share.
Um, the situation with her coming through in the first place, is definitely intermingled with my partner. Me and my partner have still been together less than a year. So,
Yeah, another thing I wanted to ask you about.
so it's today's May 21st while we're recording this. We met June 4th last year. So we were together. The way that we met was super crazy because I had had a dream about him before I met him, in the February prior. And so when I met him, I was like, oh my gosh, this is the guy. I can see it.
Wow.
Like his hands look the same, blah, blah. And I even have documentation that I was like, I had this dream in February. I told these friends, so people know I'm not crazy. Um, so I met him, and I knew this was the person. So when we got together, it was about 6 weeks in before he was like, do you think we should try for a baby? And I was like, that sounds
6
nuts.
weeks in of dating.
Would you say? Yeah.
Yeah.
So, which, like to meet someone on Bumble, like, and then have that type of response, most people know, like, you can't even get someone to call you your girlfriend after that amount
Right?
of time.
I know.
You're like 3 months still in, like, what are we?
What are we? Yeah.
So 6 weeks in, he's talking about that. And I was just like, I don't know. Like, so I'm not bothered by this idea.
Mhm.
I'm very comfortable with this idea. And I'm a very practical person. So that was like kind of crazy for me, to even consider that. And so we had some friends that were having some trouble with fertility stuff. And he was like, well, I know that I have PCOS and endometriosis and fibroids and the whole bit. So I've always had doctors tell me, like, you're going to have trouble. It's going to be this, that, and the other. So maybe like a couple weeks later, he said, well, what would you name the baby? And I was like, I never let myself think about it, because doctors have always said I was not going to be able to, or I was going to have trouble. So I never let myself even think about really being a mom. And in fact, for most of my life, I've had kind of a fear of having children. I
Mhm.
know I've had past lives where I've died during childbirth, or I had a child die, or something along those lines, which, were you gonna say something?
Yeah, no, I was just gonna say, wow, and I wanna get into your birth story because that must have been yeah.
Yes, it's the primary reason why for most of my life, I said I wasn't gonna have kids. To not understand anything about past lives, parallel lives, or anything like that, and to know that, like, at 6, you were saying, no, I don't ever want to have children. Like, I don't want to die,
Wow.
it's really peculiar. And
Mhm.
so, knowing that 13 years old, like, I remember my dad rubbing it in my face and be like, you always have said you've never wanted to have children, and you were scared to have kids. And I was like, if you only knew why. um, anyway, so he's telling me, asking me, have I thought of the name? And I was like, I don't know. And he says, what about the name Cairo? And
Love it.
I was like, oh my God, because I feel that I have known him in a past life where we lived in Cairo. And I had not told him that yet. And I had not really, I mean, we've talked about like a lot of the weird stuff and weird shit that I've been through, but I had a past life regression where I was pretty sure that David was Obed Umdomnia
Mm.
and I was past Claire Euphemia. And we had this lifetime together. We were trying to find each other again. It was in Cairo. So for him to say that was such a weird like synchronicity. And I was like, what the fuck are you talking about? Are you kidding me? So I told him the story and he was like, oh wow, that's crazy. And we don't have the same beliefs. We like
I
he's
was just gonna
super,
ask,
super
is he
open.
into like
He's
past lives
into it,
or
discussing it in a
true?
philosophical capacity. I don't know that he actually believes it, but he's someone who's just super open, you
Open,
know?
yeah. My
So I
partner's the same way.
believe in it. And he's like,
Yeah.
cool, I'll entertain it, you know? So we spoke about that. And then a couple weeks later, he had mentioned it again. And I was like, I am just looking for a sign. I'm really just looking for a sign. And I was on Instagram 30 seconds later. And like, I'm not kidding. Like 30 seconds later, I'm scrolling through and I come upon Tia Mowry. Do you know Tia Mowry, Tia and Tamara, the twins?
Yep.
Sister. So I come across her account, and I click on it. No idea why. Click on her account, scroll through, just like, and click on one picture. The picture that I clicked on was her in a wedding dress, next to her partner and one of her kids. And she said, TBT to our 5-year anniversary renewal. We didn't do our 10-year anniversary renewal because I was way pregnant with Cairo.
Oh my gosh.
So her daughter's name is Cairo. And I was like, I had just said, I'm looking for a sign about being pregnant with child named Cairo. And there it was. And I was like, holy shit. That's, oh my God. So I was like, all right, let's do this. I said, but here's the deal. We will try one time. And we try this one time, 1 month. If I get pregnant, we'll know that it was meant to be. We'll know she was meant to come through and this was
Yeah.
supposed to happen. If I don't, we will not do this for a year. Okay. And he said, great. And I got pregnant first try,
Wow. What a
which most
miracle.
doctors were like, no, you can't. Like, it's going to take forever and you're going to need these assistants and this, that. So she came in like, boom, we're here. We're ready. Let's do this. And I was the most nauseous I've ever been in my life, which like someone else was like, oh my gosh, her spirit is so strong and she's this and she's the most ancient of souls. And you guys have done work together in Egypt prior, like you guys are all three together again. It's the pyramid
Wow.
again. And multiple mediums or different people that I've talked to that have all said, oh, this is a really strong connection. So I got her numerology chart done right away as soon as we knew when she was born and what her name was going to be. And I haven't gotten all the contents yet, but she has the same birth path as me.
Oh, wow. And what's your birth path?
So I'm a master number 11. And
Okay.
so she was talking about like how like I'm here to do change and like it's a
Yeah.
long story, but the
And what's your sun, moon, and rising, by the way? Do you know?
I am a Cancer, Aries, Scorpio.
Scorpio
So
moon?
I'm a Scorpio rising,
Okay.
Aries moon. So Cancer, like to the nth degree for sun, but man, that moon shows through really strongly, which is why I was like, I hope she's not born in Aries. Oh my God, that would be horrible for us. Because her
And she's
being
a
sun
Taurus,
Aries,
right?
and yeah, she's a Taurus. I was like, okay, we'll be better with that. Yeah, she'll be stubborn, but she's gonna be still earthly, kind of earthier sign. And I can already tell she's super cuddly, like she wants to be around people. She wants very much to have that kind of reaffirmation within the mother, which
Mm.
I was like, if she was an Aries, she would not. They have very different capacities. At least that's what I'm told. So we'll see. But yeah, so there was just all this kind of like weird spiritual energy that was, circulating around the synchronicities as far as me and my partner's relationship, and then her coming into the world. So she's already made her stamp on my life and on like our experiences, and also like on the birth. Like that was pretty interesting.
Wow. So, so powerful. I want to go back to your love story and
Yeah.
really, talk about, would you say that you manifested your partner? And, what advice would you have for somebody listening that really wants to call in like the soul partnership?
1,000,000%. I absolutely manifested him. Actually, I would strongly advise you to go to manifestthem.com to my course.
Yes.
If you would like to draw on your soulmate. But to give you some ideas right now, I was someone who I was married before. And I was in a very toxic relationship for some time, because I didn't know my worth, and this was what I was willing to settle for at the time. That relationship taught me a lot about self-worth and a lot about myself and what I was willing to put up with,
Mm.
because it got to a point of like mental, emotional abuse, level. And it was really, really hard to leave that relationship. And when I finally got the balls to do so, not that you need balls to do so, because a lot of people are in relationships like that because of the trauma that they're experiencing in that. But when I finally, really decided that I can't do this anymore, um, I put myself in a cycle of dating where I was still looking for that self-worth and the validation of other men. And there was just this part of me that was so deeply wanting to deny being single and accepting that season of my life. And so I was willing to put up with behavior that was, again, toxic, and finding myself in similar cycles. And I I learned so much about like what I was willing to give away, in order to have that trade of feeling like someone was there. I remember I was going through this period where I would call it skin hunger, where it was like it would just be like better to have someone in my bed than to be alone by myself. And that was like, I mean, I look back at that now and I'm like, oh, these people were disgusting. Like these people that I was trading energy with were like people that were not good to me, good for me, not good for my spiritual awakening and so on. And I went through that period because, and for a long time, for a couple of years, 3 years almost, because I was unwilling to accept, what time it was for me now, that I needed to be by myself now, and I needed to accept myself now. So this doesn't mean that you don't ever desire a partner. It's just that you don't continue to settle for people who don't match what it is that you're trying to call in. So I was saying that I wanted this particular type of partner, but I continued to date people who acted like this. And the universe is like, make up your damn mind, girl. Like, I mean, you're saying you want this, but you're dating this. Like, we can't really make a strong shift with you if you're continuing to participate in behaviors that don't serve this particular goal. It's like if you decided, I really want to be a vegetarian and I'm going to eat meat every day. Like, that's
Right.
not really getting you closer to you deciding to make this huge shift for yourself. So at some point I needed to stop settling for what I was needing to just fill the void, and say like, no, like I'm willing to put myself aside
Mm.
so I can place myself or save myself for this particular person. So I went to Bali in January of 2020 for a few months to heal. Like I was like, I had such a hard 3 years. I was still, doing some healing from my divorce. I was still doing a lot of spiritual kind of upkeep of like having this massive awakening and then trying to figure myself out. So I went there and I had this incredible, like I met these girls. Like I don't know how we were all there at the same time, all from different parts of the world. And we had this team of just, we are all like trying to find ourselves and we are all trying to heal. And we would sit down and have these talks every night. And it was such a magical experience. I don't
Right.
think if I ever went to Bali again, that would ever feel like that again.
It sounds so
And
magical.
it was incredible. And not to date, like not to be there to date. Like we would go dancing at night or, whatever. So it was so fun, but more importantly, like there was such a healing in that time
Mhm.
period because I got an opportunity to just accept time for where it was. And I got a time to really reflect on what it is that I needed and what it is that I cared to draw into my life and what parts of myself were rotting that I needed to look at and I needed to deal with. Like, being in Bali with a bunch of surfer yoga women who are in incredible shape will really get you looking at yourself. And I'm a size 12, 14, and I'm not like a yoga person. I like yoga, but I'm not a yoga girl. And like it was just hard, to be in that space of like I'm constantly berating myself. I'm constantly comparing myself, all for what? Like for the
Yeah.
possibility of being somewhat attractive to someone. Why is that my purpose in the world? It's not. Like my to go out and to catch someone's eye. Why was that what I was looking for all the time? Bullshit. So I got over that and I went to like all these healings. And so this is what happened. Okay.
Mm.
Long story short, or shorter. There was this girl that I met with who I did a Reiki session with, and I was like, help me heal my heart. I had a really visceral experience where I got a chance, an opportunity to see where in my life I learned that I could not accept help. And this is relevant to me being able to open myself up to a partnership, because this was me accessing my feminine energy, like we talked about earlier. So when I was 9, I was in gymnastics class, and my parents couldn't afford the classes anymore. Mind you, I was in Shavasana at a yoga class when this came to me. Okay. Um, and I saw the instance where my coach was asking me, hey, do you have the money for class? Do your parents have the money for class? And I was like, they still don't have the money. And it was $25 a season, mind you. So it wasn't very much, but my parents just didn't, we were super poor. So I would go back to my parents and say, hey, do you have the money for class? And, just to feel, being an empathic child, to feel their, we don't have that, and to feel their pain about not being able to provide that, and guilt and so on. It was like my needs create pain for other people. So me needing something or having to ask for something is going to cause someone pain in some kind of way. So I'm going to learn how not to ask for anything. In addition to that, like a few months later, I had gotten a C in a class. They had not found out I was dyslexic yet, and we'd started algebra. I was really not doing very well. Plus, we had a pretty shitty teacher. And so my dad was like, oh, well, you have to quit gymnastics. You got a C. And that was never a contingency, like for me to keep up my grades, or that was suffering. I knew in the moment when he said that, it was like, it's because you guys can't afford the classes. You found me as a way to be a scapegoat and make it my fault, so you wouldn't have to feel bad. Really bad parenting mistake on my father's part on that moment. But I knew then, I was 9, 10 years old, and I knew then, and I was like, okay, well, I won't, if I don't need anyone and I don't have to ask for anything, then I also don't have to worry about something being taken away from me. So I'll just do everything myself. And a lot of us learned that lesson really early.
Yeah.
So being in Bali, having that moment come to me, I was like, one of my guides spoke out loud to me and said, this is why you have trouble attracting a person in your life.
Wow.
Because there's no space for anyone. If you're attracting a true masculine, someone who wants to do things for you, well, then there's no space for them to do anything for you. So you just then don't become this person who's attractive, of someone who can participate in your life. There's a block, there's a wall there. You don't need anyone.
What a powerful breakthrough to see
It
that.
kicked me in the teeth. And I cried. I was just like, this is the thing? It's not that I'm fat. It's not all the other things that I was telling myself. Like, it wasn't that my hair wasn't this, or my teeth weren't that, or, like all the narratives and the tapes that I've been listening to for so long. It's none of that. Holy shit. Like, I have to do a reassessment. It was a paradigm shift. I'm getting chills now. Like, it was such a massive shift for me to say, wait a minute. Okay, that's different. So I went and saw this Reiki healer lady. I said, can you do something with my heart energy? Because I know it's super blocked up because of this thing. Now I know what this thing is. And after I had that session, I had a dream about David. And in the dream, he comes up to me, he asks me if I'm single and whatever. We go into this beautiful saloon. Mind you, they were protesting. There were men marching in the streets. So this was in February. No, this was in the dream. Okay. In February, I had a dream about 8 Black men marching in a protest.
Got it.
I met David in June, right after all the George Floyd stuff happened. Yeah. So it was some precursor thing or whatever. But in the dream, we're wearing hoodies and Jordans or whatever. And we walk into this beautiful saloon and do this Bridgerton style dance, And so we did this dance together, and he asked me to come in this back room, and then he asked me and he says, do you want to have sex? And I was like, see, I knew it. I knew you were one of those kind of guys, blah, 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 in the dream. And he says, I wasn't finished. He says, do you want to have sex, or do you want your equal and capable partner? And I was like, I want my equal and capable partner. He said, then wait for me. And meaning don't sleep around.
Cry. This is so beautiful.
It was a crazy dream.
Do you have dreams like this often, where they're prophetic? And
I did as a child. That's kind of how I knew some of my giftings or whatever, sensitivities. But I hadn't had one in a really long time. Yeah. So when I had this dream, I wrote everything down. I even made an audio message and I sent it to the girl who did the reading for me. And I was like, yo, this is what he looked like. I even have pictures that I screenshot that I was like, he kind of looks like a mix of these two guys. And sure enough, when I met him, I saw him and I recognized his hands because we did this dance where we were like putting our hands together. I was like, that's the guy. Holy shit.
Did you say
So
something right away?
no, I didn't. And actually, in fact, so May 18th, prior to actually, yeah, that was like just past, prior to me meeting him in June, I did like a ritual where I turned on, and I had done this quite a bit, but this particular day was something special. I lit a bunch of candles and I played this song that I've been playing over and over when I was thinking about him, because I felt like he was close. And
Mhm.
I did this dance in my living room, like the dance in my dream. And I was like, I know he's coming. I know he's close by. And I remember thinking that like in that moment, I really connected to his energy and his spirit. And so I didn't have this feeling of like without a partner, I was without anyone because it was like he was right here. I could feel him right here. And even while I was in Bali, I remember saying like I always feel like there's someone like in my like if I'm pointing to the right side of my face,
Mhm.
that was just kind of like in the nape of my neck saying, give me a kiss, something like that. And that seems really like arbitrary, but that's what he does all the time. He comes up behind me right here and says, give me a kiss.
Oh my gosh.
And so like I always felt that energy prior, before I met him, because I was in that open state where I was like, okay, I'm ready to receive. I've opened up this feminine energetic part of myself that says you're allowed to contribute to my life. I'm allowed to accept something from someone else. It's not a burden for me to need anything from anyone. I desire for someone to come in and be a part and contribute.
Wow.
And that opened up the floodgates for me to be able to
Yes.
start to manifest that partner.
I love that so much. There's so many things about that story that are so beautiful. And it's almost like you were in a relationship with him before he like manifested in physical form and you were
100%.
allowing yourself to be with that energy and trust that that energy was coming in. I feel like sometimes we can be so close and then
Mhm,
like second guess it and be like, oh, settle or feel like we need to do something more. But it really is
mhm,
that energy of receiving and allowing
mhm.
a partner to come in.
You have to open it up, and I'll tell you this, I've never been someone who men have walked up to me unless it's been like, I mean, we've all had the random straggler who's like, "Hey, baby, baby, yo." I've never had, like, qualified men to actually approach me. After I figured that out and I had accepted that part of myself and said, "I'm willing to open that up," it was like one after another. Men were
Yeah.
approaching me out of nowhere, and I was like, "What is happening?" Like, I was in the airport, and this guy walked over, and I was like, he said, "I can see your angel wings from over there." And
Wow.
I was like, "Are you kidding me? That's a lie." And he's like, "No, I think you're an earth angel. Like, I saw you from over there." And I was like immediately attracted to you. And I'm like, "What the hell is going on?" I was in Paris. I had a job to shoot there before I came back home. And this other guy comes up to me, "Where are you going, love?" And blah, blah, blah. And I was like, I mean, he fine. Like, and then being like, him being like, "I want to have children with you. Like, I want to marry you," and blah, blah, blah. And I was like, what? I don't understand what's happening, except that I've changed and shifted my energy, and now I've become. It's like the moth to a flame. Like your light is on, and it's like
Exactly.
every moth that comes there is not supposed to be your person, but at least you've turned the light on.
And people can actually see you. You
See
are
you.
an earth angel, by the way. I could
Oh, thank you.
totally yeah.
That's nice.
Um, so, what are some other things that have been really helpful for you to turn your light on and helped you in your spiritual journey?
That's a great question. Um, you know, I think that as far as spirituality goes, there has been a big part of myself that has just said to accept every part of myself. You know, we said that earlier, but like to really listen to what it means to accept yourself. There's been so many parts of me, I've even seen this in our relationship with my partner, how he accepts parts of me that I'm like, ugh, like you like that. You still want to participate in this, you still love me, areas where I'm super harsh on myself. And I wondered, and I not wondered, I thought about it like this is how the universe feels about me. Like the universe accepts me just as I am. I've been created this way, regardless of my body or personality or whatever. This is who I am. Can I find deep, loving acceptance for what that looks like? Because I've found that when I'm not cluttering my mind with everything that I think I'm not, I have a lot of space for what it is that I am. And when I have space for what it is that I am, oh man, like the access and abilities that come through, um, are 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 insurmountable. Like There was an episode I did once about the vessel, your vessel. And, every day, if we're sitting and telling ourselves things about ourselves, I'm not successful enough, I'm not this enough, or I'll never find this guy, or I'll never, like we feed ourselves with that. And those are things that I would consider and call rot. So we put those things inside of our body. And those of us who are on a spiritual journey, then we ask spirit and says, I want to get intuition and I want to get messages and downloads and channels and I want to have these deep meditations and so on. And it's like, yeah, but like you just filled your entire body with rot. How can such a high vibrational frequency exist with something that's such a low vibrational frequency? And
That's
this
so
isn't
powerful. And explain again, what is rot? What constitutes
rot
rot?
to me is it constitutes like just areas where like you hate yourself, to be quite honest, to be like the
Any
things,
lack of
myths and lies that you tell yourself.
yeah.
It's one thing to have feelings, okay, and I'm not saying you can't have feelings, you can't have negative feelings, like that's a part of our humanity, like those are allowed. But when we start telling ourselves narratives, um because for instance, like I always say this is like we tell ourselves these things because we would rather be right than be happy. And those narratives, for instance, like when I had to shift and say, okay, men don't hate me because I'm fat. Men aren't treating me like this because I'm fat. They're treating me like this because I treat myself this way. Like I am the
Reflection.
reflection.
Yep.
I am the mirror. Like, so I attract back into my life, like not to blame everybody. I know that there are things that happen in our life sometimes that are like, we didn't deserve that or we didn't attract that. But for a large part of it, we do. And so if I'm telling myself, oh, you're this and nobody will like you because of this, well, guess what? I attract people that reaffirm that to me. So I'm not crazy.
Yeah.
And to be honest, to let go of some of those narratives or to let go of some of that safety. If I can predict that you will hate me or you won't like me or you're going to treat me a certain way, then I can always say, see, I knew it. I knew you were going to be like this. And
Yeah.
if I can do that, then I can serve my ego
The brain
and I
wants
can
to be
feel
right.
exactly because that's safe. Then I know what's going to happen. Oh, I let myself out there. I let myself have these feelings and blah, blah, blah. See, I knew that was going to happen. I shouldn't have blah, 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 blah. And and because of that, I get to be right. It takes away some of the blow of that rejection. It takes away some of the blow of feeling or having that experience. But if I were to actually be vulnerable with myself, which is what I had to do, I had to go say, okay, this is not why. Find the real reason why and dissolve some of that rot. Well, guess what? Everything shifts.
Wow.
Everything changes. My whole perspective, you take the glasses off, your whole perspective changes. The color of things are different. And because of that, like there's this shift and change also within your spiritual self because now you're open. And now the rot has left your body in some kind form or facet. And because of that, now you have the vessel open for those high vibrational things. As soon as I got rid of some of those things that I was telling myself, oh man, my guides were louder than ever. And it
Wow.
was like, oh man, well now you have space. You have space to be able to like I can contain in this body that super, super high vibrational message because I don't have a low vibrational message competing with it. Like if my guides and spirits and everybody's saying you're this gifted, incredible earth angel person, can I receive that and be in that position and step into that role if I'm telling myself and feeding myself shit all the time? No. So, and in that aspect, that to me has been the biggest shift and change for my spirituality is like, if I can accept myself and be in that place where I'm no longer feeding myself that rot, obviously it's a process. It doesn't happen overnight, but good God, like what shifts and changes inside of you, like what you're able to see, what you're able to do, what you're able to follow through with, like even my podcast, right? We just crossed 1 million downloads
I saw
and
that. Congratulations.
thank you. Like super excited. I said I wanted to
In
do that
such a
before I had
short
the
when
baby.
did you start your show?
October 2019. So
Wow.
it's been a year and a half,
Yeah,
basically.
which is no time.
No time. And to see how much it's taken off, it was as a result of me listening to my guides. My guide said very clearly, Alea, you have a message. And I was like, I don't have a message. I don't know what I'm supposed to say. And they're like, no, like you need to step into this, even down to the name of the podcast. I was sitting in my car. I just gotten back from Colorado and I heard spiritual shit. And I was like, that's not a good name. Like, people are gonna like have something to say about profanity, but that's how I talk, so that makes sense. And it was like 3 minutes later, I had made the cover for the thing and everything. And my guides were saying, this is it. Like, this is, you need to put this out there. And knowing that like 1,000 billion other people have podcasts, I was like, I don't think I have anything to offer that's going to be any, better, or like, what's going to be the deal here? What's the angle? But listening to that was as a result of me accepting part of myself and saying, all right, like, what do I have to lose? I'm not fighting with myself anymore in that rot. So I was able to hear that message, and then boom, here it is. It was like, oh shit, this is a whole different path for me that I could have never imagined, like being able to I do card readings and
Uh-huh.
energy coaching and help people learn more about their energy. And I was a photographer full time, for 16
Wow. So this
years.
all opened up for you like in the past
Yeah,
year and a half.
100%. And probably in the last, like, I would say 8 months. Because the podcast was already doing what it was doing, but like to be able to do this type of stuff full time, I was doing it on the side for like 4 years. But never thought it would be something that, like, I bought a house on this income. Like, I mean, that, you want to talk about manifestation, like trying to explain to a loan officer what energy reading is. They're like, I'm sorry, like, so what is it that you do? Like, and having and being able to do that, like, you want to talk about manifestation. I have the most magical year, behind me, of being able to listen to that spirit, listen to those guides, listen to them say, hey, this, I had a dream about this house before we moved in. And we almost bought another house. And I was like, it's not the house. Like, I had a dream that we were going to move in a house that had a red roof on it. And then the day that we declined the other house, this one came on the market. And I was like, that's the house from the dream. Being able to listen to
Wow.
those things is as a result of me cleaning out that the closet, essentially, of like the low vibrational energy of the stuff, saying that I couldn't have these things, that I didn't
Yeah.
deserve these things, etc.
I love that so much. Totally agree with that. And so like that cleaning out the rot that you're talking about, like what are some other ways that you would recommend for people to like really see, hear, connect with their guides more clearly?
To get quiet. We rarely get, it sounds so simple. We rarely get quiet.
Do you feel like going to Bali was like a big catalyst for that
Yes,
or
it was 100%, because I was in a space where I knew I wasn't working, and I went there, not knowing anyone, somehow making like 20 friends, but that's, me. But there's like, but to be there and not to have an agenda, it was like, today I'm going to go swimming. That's what I'm going to do today. Like, to have time to space out, to have time to listen to the birds, to be in nature. Like, it was such a shift and change from my normal day-to-day life, that it got me so quiet that I was seeing and hearing things that I was like, okay, I mean, I may be a little, even for me, maybe a little crazy. It felt like that because I was connecting so deeply.
And I feel
Um,
like it's possible to, especially when we're on vacation and we're outside of
mhm.
our element and we can get quiet. And then how did you carry that like back when you got home and you have the day to day and you have your, bills to pay? Like what is your recommendation?
Well, the transformation is interesting because when we go on vacation, we go for like a week or 2 weeks, and we go with the intention of like, let's go experience this. Let's go experience. We never really turn off when we go on vacation. Those who have the good practice of being able to do that are some few and far in between, because it's not enough time. And what happened was, for me, and this is my luck, I would say, is that I went into Bali for 2 months for this, like, whoo, relaxing whatever. And then I went to France for a week to do some work. And then I came back and COVID had just hit. So it was the March, like the beginning of everything shutting down. So I had another 3 months of time to be quiet, where we couldn't work. And I was, I'm staying with a friend of mine in quarantine, basically, because I left my apartment. I was supposed to do a whole travel year, and that whole thing got shut down because of COVID.
Wow.
So I came back with no home, and, like, I had to move in with a friend for a temporary. And we just, it's like, well, I can't work right now, and there's nothing to do. We can't go anywhere. Like, we sat inside our rooms and thought about our life and the world. And in that capacity, I had a good 5 months of time where I was able to really sit and think. So for me, that was how that transition was able to make a deeper marker. But if you don't have that kind of time, then Okay. Sorry.
No
We
worries.
will edit this portion out. What was I
Yeah.
talking about?
If you don't have that time, well, it's funny because it really goes back to what you were saying about really appreciating the season that you're in. Because I feel like
Yes.
for me as well in 2020, I was able to go inward in a way that I haven't ever before in my life. And
Mm,
I feel like sometimes the universe, spirit can give us an opportunity to do that. And
yes.
if we surrender and listen to the season of what it's
Mm,
showing us, profound things will happen. Case in point, like all this beauty that you were able to manifest in your life. But sometimes we can be in a place of resistance and not listening.
mhm.
So I just love how you,
100%. You're 100% right. And like, guys, listen to what she's just said, because I do believe that the universe gives us opportunities often, and we look at them as like, oh no, this terrible thing happened. I lost my job. Or, like that would be a terrible thing for most people. But then it's like you have this opportunity now to create what it is that you actually want. But a lot of people don't see it that way. And we get stuck in scarcity, and we get stuck in, like what it should look like and what it shouldn't be, and not accept that season of what's happening right now. Obviously, if you need to provide for yourself, that's going to be very important. But like there are moments where we can find time to take a breath and accept, like you said, the season that we're in. And if we give ourselves that opportunity, really amazing things come out of it. Like for instance, this time for me right now is difficult because it's like I am a stay-at-home mom right now. Like that statement to say out loud feels gross to me. Because I'm such a like worker person, and
yeah,
like not to shame anybody else who does that. Like this is a lovely, like you providing for your child is the most important job that you could ever have,
absolutely.
um, and especially in emotional capacity. But it's not something I ever saw for myself as something that I would even do, or like I was never even the person who was like, I want to be a mom. I never had that capacity. So to be in this space and say, I want to learn how to accept my place right now, because the universe may be trying to give me something really incredible that I can't see.
Yeah.
And the way that whole last year went, like you could have never ever told me, never, a year ago, like in this day, a year ago, you couldn't have told me, girl, you gonna buy a house, you gonna meet the man of your dreams, you gonna have a baby. I'm like, shut the fuck up. Like
I
there'd be no
love that.
way. There would be no way to see how much your life could change in just a year when you receive what the universe is trying to give you and give yourself the opportunity to accept where you're at right now. If
Yes.
you could do that, oh my gosh. Because I was able to do that, and this is not a bragging thing, I've spent most of my life resisting it, but to give myself, because it was like a force kind of thing, and because I had resisted it so often and so much, it was like, I don't have anything else. Like I don't have anything to lose. I guess we'll just be here now. And my entire world changed because of it.
Love that. So what's next for you? What is, on your horizon? I mean,
What is
anything
next for
else that you
me?
want to manifest? I feel
I'm
like
trying to be here now. I don't know.
yeah.
um, I think so currently, like I'm trying to get my handle on what is this little girl gonna bring into our life and what that's gonna look like.
Yeah.
Work wise, spiritual shit, my podcast. I took a detour in the type of interviews I was taking for some time. A lot of them were about like healing, and a lot of them were more humanity oriented. And I found myself getting kind of bored almost. Like I was working with a agency at the time, and so they were feeding me a lot of the guests that I was having. And don't get me wrong, the guests are amazing. But I wasn't feeling that spark that I was
Yeah.
feeling before, because I'm a researcher. And if someone's doing it for me, like I was like, I want to get into the topics. I want to dive into what that looks like so I can be more closely connected to what the collective needs.
Yes.
And I know that like I have a problem with delegation anyway. So trying to like let myself take my hands off of it, I can't, because it's an important creative process to the podcast. So for me, I think like in this next year, you'll see, I hope, a different type of variety of guests coming on. I will be doing a lot more personal episodes,
Awesome. Love
which
those.
thank you. And people say they love them, and I'm like, oh, whatever. No, they're not as good as the ones with the, and people say they love them. So like me stepping into that and being like, I'm gonna be more in the front of that. And I have some courses that I'd like to come out, but like I'm really interested just to see like how this year unfolds as far as like family and motherhood goes, and
Yeah.
what that will mean and how that will change my career. Because I also had a spirit guide tell me that I'm going to start helping people or even writing a book about what does it mean to raise intuitive children
Ooh,
or psychic children, something
yeah.
like along those lines. So I had a medium tell me that like 4 years ago, and I was like, I don't have kids. Like, what do so who knows if that's something that's going to happen, but that's something I've been thinking about that's been hanging in the background for a while.
Exciting, exciting. Aaliyah, where can people go to connect with you, to check out your podcast?
Yeah. So if you go to spiritual shit on any major platform, you can find my podcast there. And then you can find me at thelovelyalea.com or patreon.com/thelovelyalea. That's where I hang out the most, as well as Instagram and Twitter, which is also /thelovelyalea.
Amazing. And one last question for you. Any final words of wisdom for the collective right now during this time?
Let me soak that in for a second. I think, what we've covered today is super important. If you can really give yourself an opportunity to accept where you're at right now, to give yourself grace and compassion for what you've been through, and to really take the should, out of your life at this moment. Give yourself the opportunity to be where you're at, and not to be lazy, not to be, like to brush off the career goals you have or desires that you have. But can you give an honest eye to where you're at right now and give yourself love and acceptance for at where you're at right now? Because I do believe that when we're in that state, it's so much easier to see the opportunities and manifestations that are possible for us when we're not constantly trying to go against the grain. It's almost as if you are driving in a car with the universe, and the universe is in the driver's seat, and you're like, all right, I'm going to type in the GPS, but I'm going to let you figure out how to get there. So I'm going to take a nap in the passenger seat. This is not to say that you're not active in what it is that you're trying to create, but if you can accept where you're going, or where you're at currently, where you're at, you might be surprised where you would end up.
I love that so, so much. So beautiful.
Thank
Just want to
you.
honor you for all you're doing, your vulnerability, your courage,
Thank
all the
you.
authenticity that you bring to the world. Thank you for being here. Many
Thank
blessings
you.
to you and to everyone who's listening.